Welcome in, welcome in, welcome once again to the newest edition of 3 In, 3 Out, the most unique Seahawks recap show in the multiverse. I'm your host, Clinton Bonner, and I am joined by the one, the only, the great Brandon Schultz. And Brandon, while we will not be going on to the playoffs this year, we are here to do the job, which is to celebrate the 10th victory of the year over those stupid Rams and look back on the season by looking at the micro moments of this game, because just like every other game, Brandon, there was some incredible stuff. There was some stuff I wish I saw way earlier in the season that might have saved somebody's job. And there was also some doo-doo. So we're going to get into all that. How do you feel about the smattering, Brandon?
Oh, this is truly the most unique recap show this week because I guarantee you there is no other place online that you're going to find a recap of a game like the Seahawks versus the Rams. It's only right here, and it's even in a unique way, too. So we are breaking ground by being the only people that are doing this, Clinton.
Yeah, everybody is like, hey, we fired our OC since then, which, by the way, if folks are here and you did go to our YouTube channel, so youtube.com, I'll put it on screen actually right here, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. Just last night, Brandon, Adam, and myself, what we spent over an hour and a half, right, Brandon? And how many OC candidates did we put up on screen? I think it was at
It
least
was
the
about
Baker's dozen, right?
20. Yeah,
Nice.
I think there were 14 individual candidates, and then between the screen of other mentions, I think we probably hit 25 total names.
Right. So it's a pretty good little in-depth look, or at least a glance at who are these names, what tree are they coming from, and why might Seattle be interested? And will they go kind of elder statesmen and look for ex-head coaches? Are they going to go back and look for the young hotshots like the Josh McCowns of the world that are out there? So we think we did a nice job with that. And by the results of it, I think you do too, listeners. So if you're here for the grub stuff, we already did it. We are so far ahead of ourselves that now we get to take a pause and look backwards, because on 3 In, 3 Out, if it is your first time here, it's a unique recap show. And what we like to do is we like to look at three of the micro moments, the nooks and the crannies of the good and why they were good, and also some of the moments that really perturbed us. But we tend to leave on the shelf the things everybody else is talking about. So, for example, we all love the Geno Smith pirouette dime that he throws to DK Metcalf, but on 3 In, 3 Out, it's not the kind of stuff we're going to cover. Correct, Brendan?
That's right. We are going to cover like maybe the Lake and Tomlinson block that helped set up that Geno Smith touchdown.
That might be on the out column if we were to cover that, right? I actually thought about that. So funny you say that. And we do have on screen right now as well, one of the things we like to put out on YouTube, one of the reasons you should follow us out there and subscribe, is that we're always putting polls and just extra content out through YouTube now. And we asked the other day, hey, let's grade Mike McDonald's year one as a Seahawks coach. By the way, this poll went up before the firing of Grubb. And most people were dead smack in the middle here, as you can see on screen, Brandon. 2/3 are like, hey, that's a B. Solid, happy year. Good chunk were still like, that's an A for me, 24%. And only 10% being like, hey, too much talent to not make the playoffs. Where would you have fallen if you cast your vote?
It would probably be in the B column. C, I'm even kind of there a little bit just because I did feel like there was enough talent here to make the playoffs, and it goes back. I would bet to put myself in the position of the people who voted C. Like, you beat the Rams at the end of the season, you should have beat them earlier in the season. You should have beat the Giants. You should be in the playoffs.
Right. And it was a weak division this year, right? As evidenced by the Rams moving on. They're not that good. Their point differentials, a negative point differential. Not a very good football team. With that, I would be a solid B. The challenge for me, where I cannot get to an A, is simply waiting. They waited an entire year to make a change that I believe they knew they were going to make, meaning Coach McDonald knew he was going to make probably about 8 or 9 weeks in. And I actually think part of him probably wanted to pull the trigger, the proverbial trigger, sooner. I'm sure there was a lot of intense discussions with John Snyder about to do that or to be patient because it's year one, et cetera, et cetera. And then one thing I'll say too is as we get going with this tape review, there's so much good on this tape offensively with play action and running the ball under center and some cool combos we're doing and some nifty little motions we're doing. And it just made me a little bit like, oh man, too little, too late, Brandon. Like obviously the die was already cast on this one. They had made their decision up. Grubb was not going to save his job. And yet I think we saw some of the most balanced offense we saw for 17 games. I mean,
Right.
I'm not sure if you had a chance to go back and take a peek yourself.
Well, I saw enough of it during the game too, where it was you had to ask yourself, well, where was this earlier? Because obviously they can do it. Because there are times throughout the season, what was the argument? No, they can't run because this line stinks, or but they were good enough to pass block. So
Yeah.
if the line stinks, I feel like they should stink in more ways than one. And really they did. I mean, they weren't a great pass blocking team. They weren't a great run blocking team. But they were able to do both. So it was just a matter of having some kind of balance. And I,
Yeah.
I think it just goes a lot like what we've heard from him. It's the personal philosophy thing.
Yep.
Grubb's philosophy was he wants to throw the football. That's what he did in college. And I don't think he could get away from that very well. So I think that it's a good sign, though, that we have the talent on the team to actually be able to do those things. And it's unfortunate that it didn't work out because I think there were some cool things that we saw from Ryan Grubb throughout the season. I was like,
Yes.
man, we saw some upgrades in some ways over Shane Waldron, especially
Yes.
when it came to some of the unique play designs and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but
It is. It didn't coalesce the way, the weekend at the college didn't turn out like we planned, right? So it's what it is. But I am happy at this point that they made the clean cut. They're going to go OC shopping, and Mike knows what he wants, and I trust that Mike knows what he wants, and we'll have a much more balanced, more in flow team heading into 2025 with a lot of talent out there. And again, you and Adam were ahead of the curve, but also we're also beating the drum of, hey, when you hear the excuse that it's an O-line thing, it's still a choice. And then when you hear McDonald answer at the podium and they ask Grubb and McDonald the same exact question, and McDonald's just like, no, you got to commit to it.
right.
And,
Yeah,
Grubb gives a
you have to run
meandering,
the ball to get good at running the ball. And Mike
right.
McDonald's like, no, you just have to do it.
You just got to do it. You just got to do it. So that's what it is. And we're going to look at some really cool moments in this game that are a little bittersweet because they exemplify a little bit of what could have been and a little bit of what if Grubb changed a little sooner.
Mm.
And one of the things I kept hearing from some other pundits too were like, this is not a, he's not being let go because of performance. It's not a performance let go. Well, then what is it? Because
performance can be many things. I feel like if I go to work every day and my boss asks me to do very specific things and I don't accomplish
do
those
them.
specific tasks, I figure that could point toward performance in a way. But I suppose if you're looking toward numbers and offensive output, generally the offensive output was pretty good for when you compare it to the rest of the league. Now, inside the red zone, not so great. Passing
Right.
touchdowns, the lowest that we've seen in a while. So, I mean, you can point to certain areas, but I think if you again point to some of those offensive outputs, they were higher than they were in the previous year, which it would tend not to suggest performance the way it would in other areas. So
I just think it's people are trying to be a little too over polite. Performance when it's 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2 and you're throwing the football over the yard. That's also performance and or underperformance. I just think people are being a little too cute with their language and just not calling it what it is in this instance. And I agree. It stems from the fact that they are philosophically not aligned. I understand that. I know that's the core of it. And it led to underperformance and it led to throwing footballs when you clearly should be running the football or at least mixing things up so your tendencies are not shown to the entire world what you intend to do from, a shotgun or an empty set and shotgun. So anyway, we did talk about grub a lot last night. In fact, we spent most of the time for folks to go back and look at, if they haven't already, really looking at those 15 or so or 20 or so candidates, that just to get the names out there, put the faces out there, put their age, put the tree, and what the interest level might be. So go check that out on YouTube. One other thing, Brandon, that we need to remind people that is coming up on YouTube in our future state. In fact, Brandon, I'll pass this purple people eater baton to you. What's happening on Monday that the flock has got to join in on?
Yes, coming up just 6 days away, the stupid Los Angeles Rams are going to be in the playoffs, and we are going to be cheering on the Minnesota Vikings to knock them out, because I can't think of anything worse than having to watch one more extra week of Rams football. So let's cut it off early. Let's cheer on the Vikings while we do it and have a little bit of fun watching it. So that's what we got planned. And hey, we might even do some more giveaways like we did during the last watch party.
Oh, I think that's a lovely idea. So everybody put that in your calendars, and if you're subscribed, hit the notification. This way, it just dings for you. And about 10 minutes before kickoff, we're going to hop on and we're going to start cheering rabidly against the stupid Rams team. Brandon, I was putting together the videos to the very last second here, throwing a thumbnail together, and of course my sticky note disappeared. So, good sir, one more time for the season of 2024, as we begin the year of 2025, could you help me out? I know there's a rule. I forget the one rule, but I know it exists. What is our one rule on 3 and 3 out?
Enough is enough. For one last time, when we win, Clinton, we start with an N.
We start with an N. Let's whammy that thing and get there, buddy. Getting a little emotional at the end of the season. It's like, hey, we'll be back.
Even.
Yeah, a little bit. This might be season 6, might be season 7. I have lost count here. This one is hitting me a bit harder. I think it's just because there was so much potential, and it's like you get through this full season and you go 10 wins, could have been 11 or 12. But again, 3 and 3 out is all about the good and the micro moments and the crannies. So let's get into some of these. So this first one, it's early in the game. I blew the timestamp up so I could actually see without my glasses and not have to squint this way. So it's Q1, 13:29 to go, 3rd and 14. LA's on LA's 49-yard line. I'm just calling this third an absolute havoc. Brandon, I tried to pick ins and outs that weren't just emblematic of the game, because in many ways the game was, varsity versus JV. I love the win. It's all good. But I tried to pick things that also highlight what McDonald wants to be, and would also maybe give us a little vantage point into what our future state can continue to look like. So I would say just keep that in mind as you absorb these and react to them. So let's go to the videotape, of course. Let's get this up on screen. I think I'm going to play it through the first time. There's a reminder for Hate Watch 25. You'll see that a bunch. Join us. It'll be fun. Okay, so just going to pause it right here and talk about it real quick. So you've got handsome Jimmy G in shotgun. At this point, it's still Blake Corum to his left-hand side. I hope Blake Corum heals up. That stinks, dude. Broke his forearm in this game, and that's terrible. But we get them into 3rd and 14. I think they had a false start on 3rd and 9. Now they're in 3rd and 14. Brandon, this is where McDonald's going to eat, whether this is down the red zone, whether they're at the 50. I love the fact that right away we're sending 6, and in a little bit want to highlight this kind of little pseudo sneakiness, which is what we want to call it here, right from here. This was kind of cool because when you look at the all 22, you start to see that they're doing this like little shadowy stack. So you got your rookie linebacker, and then you got your veteran linebacker, Jones, number 13, behind him, and Tyrese Knight more towards us, that are both highlighted. What's kind of neat is what I want folks to really zero in on is watch Ernest Jones mimic Tyrese Knight until it's time to not mimic him. So he really kind of just blends in, and I don't know if this is a starting 5 O-line or backups. I mean, I know, but I'm saying I think it's difficult for any caliber player because they execute this so well. So just take a look at this. And the jab step from Tyrese It's really good, really, really well executed. Slow it down a bit there.
Mhm.
And so they kind of just start down the same path. He takes a jab step and then he's around that center in no time flat. Derek Hall's winning, EJ's winning. Brandon, third and havoc to start our last in for the year out. What do you think, bud?
Yeah, that was fun. And they were rolling with a backup center. I did see some starters in there on the offensive line, though. So I mean, Noteboom was out there at left tackle, Avila out there at left guard. So they did have the left side of their line. I think their center might have been hurt actually. So anyway, they've got Dylan McMahon out there, and he gets absolutely juked
Mm,
out of his shoes by
yeah,
Knight here. And I think part of it too is just probably both of these guys know which direction that they're going to go, but it
right.
could also depend on some of how the center reacts too, as to um, it may be uh, you know EJ going one direction the next time, or mixing it up a little bit that way too.
Yeah. And you have a kind of a bit of a late stunt there as well. So EJ's coming to the left-hand side of the screen, and then you got Reed wrapping around quickly, and everything has just gone bonkers by that point. So this, what I like about this is, and to take it kind of forward, to go backwards to take it forward, is for
Who
me
did they
that
give that sack to, by the way?
I
Like
think
all
I
four
think
guys got there at the same time.
I think Tyrese got a half, and I think they might have given somebody else a half, which
Okay.
is probably fine. Um, what in 2023, we'd see like a guy get there and then an escape route, right? And I think one of the things as we look forward to McDonald in 2025 that we saw enough of in 2024 to kind of take us through 3 full seasons of football or into the future for season 3 is that they the kind of like the gang formation style of what they do, like when they get home together, and you don't get dudes escaping one guy and then running for 30 yards. I mean, it happens every now and again, but I felt like it was markedly less this year than maybe the 2 or 3 years previous. Any thoughts on that?
It does feel that way. I mean, definitely down the stretch too. You saw just a lot more of the defense getting pressure, and something that you didn't see from the defense early on in the season. So yeah, I think, and part of that too is getting into favorable situations, something that they didn't do a whole lot of early in the season, and another part of it too, I think, is just having the linebackers, having
Yeah.
you got Wosu back toward the end of the year. You saw Leonard Williams really take off toward the end of the year. So it's, yeah, part situation, part, I think, becoming familiar with the defense.
Yeah, and I think I just saw Amy in the Discord post before we went live. So now with the all pro voting, she posted something about Chris Jones versus Leo. Now, does PFF also do an all pro? Are there like 72 versions
Oh,
of all pro nowadays, or
there's
is PFF the all pro?
no, no, no. It's they do one, the AP. I think the AP All Pro team is like the official one.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I know there's a players only one. And I don't know if that's the PFF one or if it's just PFF wants to get involved and have their own
I
little
think
trophy.
PFF does it based on how they rank out their players, with their scoring throughout the season.
Okay. Fine, fine. They watch every play after all, but I
Did
mean,
K9
still,
make it? K9 might
uh,
have been up there with his 90 grade on the season,
yeah,
or
yeah,
89, I think.
he had a sick grade. I wonder if he played enough downs to qualify, because he missed quite a bit of time,
Sure.
and when he was in, he was awesome. All right, we do have some not so great stuff to get to. Let's hit that whammy and let's charge at it. So it's our last time here for 3 and 3 out this year. So some of these outs are going to be a bit of that, like I said, a bittersweet nugget that I wish we saw more of this. Now, so we're going to look at a play that was a very positive play. It's Q2, the very beginning of Q2. You can see the timestamp again on YouTube. It's right at the 15-minute mark. It's 3rd and 1. We are on our own 39-yard line. And I'm calling this one, where you been all my year? It's a 7-3 ball game. We're looking good. This drive to play it forward, this drive ends with that pirouette and then dime from Gino over to DK for the touchdown, which, by the way, Gino basically threw 2 touchdowns to DK in that series. One hit him in the hands, he dropped it. Next one hit him in the body, and he caught it, which is good. By challenge, and we'll go back to the videotape, is I love this play, and I want to understand why we saw this so minimally. And I'll just play it forward. And this is, people, I might have done the thing here. I may have backed it up. Okay, guys, we're live. So I might have, there we go. No.
That's not the one you wanted?
Nope. I think I may be, I am out of order for sure. And we're live. So we're going to roll with it. Let's see if I got it anywhere. This might be the case where I did not put it in the video because it does happen. All right. So I'll just have to describe it. So I do apologize, but it is what it is. So it is a 3rd and 1. I'll just describe it real quickly. Geno's in shotgun and they have like a bit of an overload, like a tight formation. And all it is, Brandon, is I know I made the video. I guess I didn't put it in the final one. I apologize. Geno does a little read option with Charbonnet and sucks him in. Barner's flying across in motion, and Geno goes for 15 of the easiest yards that we made on 3rd down in this year. I'm going to continue to look for it. I really do think it's in here, but that's okay. It's a great play, and I'm just wondering, how many times can you recollect us running a read option on 2nd and short, 3rd and short this entire year?
It was only a handful of times, and I understand it from the perspective of, your quarterback's 34. You probably are worried about some of these unblocked defenders coming off the edge and going straight for the quarterback anyway. I feel like we saw a lot of that early this year, so I don't know if it was just a tendency situation that they saw with the Rams and that they thought they could get one by them and it just this perfect time and pick up 15 yards with Geno. So it's a play that I guess I wouldn't have expected necessarily, considering Geno has had a bit of a hurt knee that he's been working through, and but it worked flawlessly. He didn't take a big hit. He got out of bounds, and this time it worked out. I think that considering health and that sort of thing, maybe we could have seen a little bit more of it. To me, I would just like traditional running the football just fine too.
For sure. And I did find it. I just misplaced it. Put it in out of order, but you're seeing it here. And, just the read option, got Barner flying across. What I liked about this too is another little nugget is that Barner's smart enough to realize what Barner's looking for too. I highlight the edge here, and Barner's looking to see it's a little bit of communication nonverbal, right? He's got to think to himself, okay, this guy he's biting, right? So I'm not even going to kick him out. I'm going to go directly to the 2nd level because I believe Geno sees what I see. And so he doesn't even bother with that guy. And he goes up to the 2nd level, doesn't get a great block there, but it doesn't really matter because it's 15 yards later anyway. Just in general, man, I really thought this was, sorry, I went back a little too far, guys. I really thought this was missing from our game. And even the last couple of years with Russ, I was like, man, Russ has stopped putting this on tape, stop running the ball. I remember a couple of years where they would do these things with Chris Carson, and they would always hand it off. And we would scream at it, be like, Russ, keep one. Just one a game. Keep them honest. But it was in the playbook. And then this year it just wasn't here. So I know this is an out to exemplify a good play, but I'm really scratching my head as to why we didn't see a little bit more of this in 2020.
The reason why we didn't see more of it was because that a defense that is used to Geno holding on to the football isn't going to bite on the run game. And it was because we were running the ball effectively against the Rams that they could actually bite. And, backup players too. It doesn't hurt. So I think that probably is what helped lead to that play on this one.
Yeah, I think you may be right. Let me tee up the next one because I am out of order to make sure that I get back to it, or at least somewhere around it before there we go. That's where we'll be when we hop back. All right, let us get back to the whammy that is, and we'll move on back to an end. Okay, so let me cue this up because I do think I'm all out of sorts here, which is fine.
Get your house in order, Clinton.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, I did find it. Cool. All right, good. So the Devils in the duo, Q3, 6:18 to go, 2nd and 5. We are on the LA Rams 33-yard line. And of course, if you know the word there, duo, it's a form of the run blocking, which again we saw some of, and then it would like disappear. We started seeing it versus Arizona. It was successful, and then it goes away. But we did see it come back for this game. And there's one particular play. I know folks were really high on Kenny McIntosh, and Kenny McIntosh, hey, runs the ball well.
Mhm.
He's getting good holes though. And I'll play this through a couple times here. Hopefully I'm on the right spot. I believe I am. Highlighting Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's coming across the formation there. It's really a cool little play. I know it's going to happen quickly, but a couple things are happening. It's darkened right here, but you got Lockett coming in motion left to right. So they're going to show a lot of strength to the right-hand side. But then on the snap, JSN's going to barrel left and Kenny Mack's getting the ball to go right. So they're just like in a traditional like 3-4 here, it looks like. And so you got your three linebackers sitting there like Orion's belt. And that middle linebacker kind of gets okey doked. Like I believe he should be exactly where this ball ends up going hole-wise. But there's two things that happen. He's drawn a little bit, I think, by what JSN's doing, and then there's a duo block happening from our right guard and our center, taking care of the nose and working up to the second level. And I have a couple angles here so we can see it again. This and there's the linebacker that gets, you can see right at that contact. He's like, "Oh, should I go that way?" Nope, it's too late. It's way too late. And you got a nice job. Go back one more time to get it from the all 22, and you're getting this nice duo block by Lamea and Oluwatimi, and then Lamea is attempting to get to the second level. He kind of does, but because of the sucking in that happened with JSN, he doesn't need to do much to actually get there. He's got to be present. Brandon, this kind of stuff, McIntosh plowing ahead, Cross doing work, kicking his guy out. I keep going back to after I watch this, like I know it's some of the backups. I'm just convinced that if this started a half a year ago, Ryan Grubb would still be the OC. And it just keeps coming up for me every time I watch this game.
Yeah, well, and we didn't even really start to see this type of run being effective until closer to, gosh, week 10 or 11 in the season. So it was way too late to try and establish an identity. It almost felt like they went through the season going, well, we're gonna start out being a primarily zone team, and then they started kind of dabbling with the duo and the gap scheme runs, and
Yeah.
and tried to lean more into um, power versus zone. And I think that maybe that's something that Mike McDonald had a little bit more to say in, because I think that these type of runs are a little bit more assertive, a little bit more. Um, you're dictating terms based on this is where we're going to run the football, and and just try and stop us type thing. Whereas with the zone runs, it's more of, well, we're going to find the hole and hit it and that sort of thing. So two different styles, and I feel like this ended up working to be the better of the two toward and the end of the season, and maybe it had to do with personnel, but yeah, a nice run for McIntosh there, and maybe we'll see, depending on the OC, maybe this is the style of running team that we see carry toward 2025.
It's going to be very up in the air. So interesting to see and what we can learn when they do get the OC, what style, what are they going to go after? And I think let's talk about Kenny Mack a little bit, right? 7 carries, I think 49 yards, limited touches down the stretch. But what do you see in Kenny Mack, and what do you think 2025 holds for that guy?
I think he has an opportunity to get more carries in 2025. Part of it depends on what they see carrying forward with Walker. I mean, if you have 3 guys, that's great.
Mhm.
He is, I think, more dynamic. Um, than Zach Charbonnet if they decide, but I don't know if he has the size necessarily to be the guy that they put back in pass pro, so he could be limited, and he doesn't quite have the breakaway speed that K9 does. So it's interesting how these different guys fit together. And I could see why he would be third on the depth chart with all three, but you don't have that big of a drop off when you go from Charbonnet to him. And he can do everything pretty well, which is what we saw from him out of Georgia. That was a little bit of a head scratcher why he fell all the way to the 7th round. It could have been due to injuries and that sort of thing, but he was looking good up until the point to where he got injured in the preseason his rookie year. So
right in the scrimmage game, right? So and he was like really having a good game as well before he kind of twisted his knee in that game. So the way you're describing him too, I think is really spot on in that he's almost that, the porridge being the exact right temperature, right? In the sense, I'm not saying he's the best. What I mean by that is you get the real explosive pitchiness with K9. Now, look, he's had a hard time staying healthy. It is what it is. It's like I could sit here all day long and say, I think he's the best back on the team. I do. He hasn't been healthy. And then you've got the more bruiser with enough speed and Sharps, who I have to be very fair to him. I was highly critical of Charbonnet earlier this season.
Still wouldn't call him a bruiser.
Well, he puts his shoulder down. He looks for the extra yards. He attracts and goes for contact, that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying he's Derrick Henry or Jerome Bettis who is, but he does go after those extra yards very, very aggressively, which I like. And he had a good year. And then there's Kenny Mack, who's just proven to do exactly what he did at Georgia. Like, oh, okay, he might not be a 4-3 guy, and who cares? Like a good back is a good back is a good back. So definitely showing that 2 years on as a 7th round pick, quite a bit of value there, which is super cool. All right, so let's get to that second out. I will go fishing for it, but let's first whammy away. All right, I gotta go find it because I'm all 6s and 7s, but I think I'm there. Yes, I am. Look at me go. All right, so I'm gonna call this one Things Have Slowed Down. Now it's a 14-3 ball game at this point. And at this point in the game, I was like, oh, we have an opportunity to put what is a JV Rams team away early and do what the Denver Broncos did to a Kansas City team who wasn't really playing, right? Run the score up and win a game like 38-0 like Kansas City did, or run this up and win 27-10. But this was a much closer game. This sequence, and I'm only going to go with one play, Q2 9:55, 1st and 10. LA is now on our 28. What you have to realize is how they got to the 28-yard line. This is the sequence where they just started screening the crap out of everything. Like everything became a screen at this point in the game, and we couldn't tackle. So this is where Trey Brown misses a tackle and then misses another tackle. And then a little bit later, Rayshon Jenkins misses a tackle on a dump off, and sandwiched in between all that. And I bring this particular one up because I want to talk about the player and I want to talk about 2025 is Nwosu missing in the backfield on this play. And he doesn't look particularly good. He just looks like something's hurt, and it's very, very, very likely he's still hurt. And it could be as simple as that. He's still hurt. We heard Abe Lucas talk today, Brandon, about, I'm still 12 days away from being 12 months from a surgery, right? So I started playing football 2 months ago. I'm still hurt. And he's being very honest about that. The thing I want to talk about, okay, so Nwosu misses this. Now this goes from, this is still haunting us. Instead of it being like a 2nd and 19, it's Brandon Powell, okay. He escapes, he gets 2 yards. There's a face mask. It's a 17-yard gain versus a 9-yard loss. So the next play, they're down at like whatever. They're like in the deep red zone.
The 13-yard line.
Yeah. Versus being back at like the 38, 39. And so, Nwosu wears the out. I think he's hurt, but I really wanted to spin the conversation to what do we do with him next year? Like he's been oft injured. I think when healthy, I think he's still our best all around edge player. But what do you think we should do with Nwosu?
It's a tough call because when you say oft injured, yeah, it's kind of like the thing with K9. I mean, he's missed games here and there with Nwosu. He was out for a long stretch with like a legit injury, so it's not
Mhm.
like one of those guys that you point to and go, "Oh, well, he just can't play through certain types of things." Is it a lack of toughness type thing, or
No,
is
right.
it, or is he just dealing with a legit type injury that he needed to work through? And moving forward, is 29 years old or 30 by the time next season rolls around? Is that something that you think is going to stick with him long term? And yeah, I think that it's a tough question to answer just based on how much we saw of him, and or if that was just a really poor effort at a tackle in this certain situation.
Well, I think the thing that is sticking with me is that I don't think he ever got healthy, fully healthy from the original injury, the knee
Sure.
injury. 'Cause that's where it's like the lateral quickness. Like, at the end of this play, these little choppy baby steps he takes, like, not
Mhm.
even baby steps to then pivot and turn around. Like, look, I'm 46 years old. That's kinda how I look, like I'm going down the stairs or I'm doing something, and I notice it. I'm like, and I hate it. I think to myself like, "Oh, don't do." No, I'm not trying to be ageist here, but in my own brain, I'm like, "Don't do the old man shuffle. Like, pick up
Right.
your feet. Like,
Mhm.
don't drag your feet. Don't do this little choppy thing. You don't need to do that. Pick up your feet, like, walk a little taller." These things I tell myself because I'm aging. I'm 46 years old. It happens, right? That's life. But to see it on the field is like, "Oh, man, that looks like a dude whose knees don't work very well right now." So
Yeah.
maybe it's as simple as that, but what's his cap hit? I know he's due to make quite a bit of money going into 2025, but I just forget what the digits are.
Yeah, the cap number is 21.5 million. So that's his total cap hit for next year. If you were to cut him, I think you're still paying about 13 million in dead money, which leaves you 8.5 for cap savings next
Mm,
year. So it's one of those questions that I think with even guys like Draymond Jones, there's other guys on the roster too, where you say, well, yeah, you can save 8.5 million, but are you going to be able to, depending on what your goals are next season,
yeah.
are you going to be able to find a guy at 8.5 that does the job as well or better if you're going to have to try and replace that productivity? And that's kind of in that area, especially for a pass rusher, a pass rushing edge player like he is. Are you going to be able to get that kind of, what you would hope from his traditional production at at 8.5 million? That's tough for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree, I agree. It's just it's a tough math equation, and that amount of dead money is substantial, quite substantial. And I am not on, "Hey, I wanna jettison Nwosu." I am fully on, I want a healthy Nwosu for that money. Right, and so
Right.
that's the balance that I hope we can get back to. My gut at this point on January 7th is simply the dude got a nasty knee injury in the preseason, kinda unnecessarily, right? It's part of the game, it's a legal block, but still kinda unnecessarily, and he never got back, never fully got back. Even with the other injury he was suffering from, he never got back to full speed, and that's kinda what it looked like. So, I think just one of those things to watch and really discuss as we do kind of mosey into what will be a fairly long off season there.
Sure. And like I said, depending on what your goals of the offseason, if it is looking to maybe more toward a rebuild than going for it next year, then you probably do cast aside some of your older meaning late 20s, but Draymond, who maybe production wise, you look at being able to find somebody that can make that up, or maybe you see elevating some other players on the depth chart to take up some of that responsibility. Maybe you look toward the draft and say, "Oh, I see a lot of defensive ends that are going to be in this draft. Maybe we go a little bit younger than Nuosu and look at it that way." So it really does depend on where you're looking and then where you want to spend that money. So can you get if you were to one of the things that we've seen from Coach McDonald is that they've had success bringing in some of those 1-year
Mm.
veteran players at lower salaries and getting a lot of production um, for the amount of money. And so, could you say, okay, that's between Draymond and Nwosu, you end up saving nearly $20 million, and you go out and sign a top guard. I know we're living in fantasy land as far as what we've seen from John Schneider over the past years, but maybe you do use that money on the offensive line, and then you can find value and in some of those guys production wise that traditionally you've seen McDonald get from more veteran defensive players. Yeah, we might be talking here.
Well, I think that's a really good discussion to explore as the offseason begins to roll on. But I think person to person, most Seahawks fans would make that kind of trade, right? Be like, yeah, sure. Like, okay, would stink to lose Nwosu. Draymond is probably going to be a cut, just very expensive. He's been okay, but certainly not worth what he was paid 2 years ago. And if you could make that swap where you're saying we're bringing in a top tier free agent guard, and we will then figure the rest out. And we still got Hall and Mafe who are ascending. I think most people would be totally like, okay, we'll figure that out. That we got the draft. There's other free agents out there, and we will end. McDonald's kind of proven, to your point, quite effective of plucking some of these dudes and getting them to their best, which is cool. So I think all that leads me to kind of desire that outcome, right? And get that really big guard free agent. All right, we're gonna hit our last traditional in of the year, Brandon. It's one I think you're gonna love. Let's hit it, bud. All right.
I know where this is going.
Oh boy, it's the barn dozer. Leave the barn door open. It's coming. All right, let me get it queued up. I do have it ready. So the barn dozer in number 3. We are trailing in this game at this point, 25-24. It's actually a good football game. Take Jimmy G and the whole thing out of it. Just look at it as like, if you were aliens looking at a game, you didn't know who the players were. So it was an entertaining game. It was a well played.
It would have had more of my attention if it would have mattered more.
Oh, I completely agree. Even if Stafford plays and they're like, yeah, we're going all out to get the 3 because we don't want to play yada yada yada. I agree with that. The exercise of going back to watch it for the show was eye opening, and it was a good game. So Q4, 5:35 to go, 1st and 10. We are on LA's 45. This is an awesome drive. And before this play, I say a lot, like, the play happens before the play happens. And I know that is a little bit tongue in cheek. However, things were happening with K-Mac on this drive. Things were open, more duo, little crack tosses, things like that. And we're just moving the ball at will with this, what becomes the game-winning drive, of course. With the barn dozer, I think most could probably pick up where we're going. I'm going to go to the video and start playing it. I'm really excited about A.J. Barner in general. And again, I wanted to pick players that we could then talk about and kind of wish cast into 2025. But let's play this forward and we'll talk about it as it goes here. So Barner comes across in motion, pretends like he's blocking, leaks out, and then talk about seeking contact, right? This is a situation where you could go out at the 7, you could go out at the 8. Oh, this is what I want to call it to very quickly. Sorry to interrupt myself and not give you a chance. What I think happens here, obviously Gino's checking and he's stopping Fant, and then he's doing a little head motion and they all pick it up and they do the thing. What I think he did, I think he just inverted the play.
Yeah.
I think the play was meant, because you get a mirror thing going on with your twin tight ends. And I think Gino sees something, personnel, whatever it is, where he goes, you know what? Instead of you being the guy that gets this, Noah, you've had enough today. We're gonna give Barner the ball. And then Barner comes across. So we'll see this in a sec. He's the one who's in motion. He pretends to block. He gets off it, releases, little check down, and then boom. I love it. 11 yards, 10.5 yards, move the sticks. Don't put us in a stupid 2nd and 1 or a 2nd and 2 when you don't need to. That's the big piece of it, right? Like, you don't need to put us in a 2nd 1, 2nd and 2. It's like, go get the yards when they're there. I'll take it back to the macro and say, I really enjoyed A.J. Barner this year. And I think this is a bit of an emblematic play of his that nicely kind of puts a little maybe like cherry on top of his season. What do you think, man?
We had a couple plays by A.J. Barner in this game, and it
Sure
did
did.
not go unnoticed by his Pro Football Focus score, which was 89.8 in this game, which was the
Dang.
highest for all Seahawks players against the Rams. He played 31 total snaps of the 55, so out there quite a bit, and had this was one of his catches, but I also remember another one too where he was looking to make contact and go through
Yes.
guys. So, yeah, it has me really excited about the type of tight end we could see down the road here with AJ Barner.
Yeah, and I know like the other day you were saying you took a little bit of a Cadillac trot on your own to say that you discussed this with EJ Snyder during the draft season, and this was your guy. You were like, EJ, I like what I'm seeing from AJ Barner. I think this is possible. And EJ was kind of on the fence about what he could be in the NFL, how he projected, and you were like, I don't know,
Yeah.
watch for this guy. And then I think as we are turning the page, what do you think about, Noah Fant's paid pretty good money? And okay, Pharaoh Brown, I don't think he's long for the Seattle Seahawks. I could say that with
I think you can find any guys like Pharaoh Brown in the
it's
offseason. It's not real hard, but
what if we find what if we find nobody like Pharaoh Brown in the offseason who just doesn't make holding penalties against us on big plays? Would that be okay, Brandon?
that would be fine too. And Noah is one of those guys that he would be at a real um it would be a high likelihood, I would say, going into the offseason that you could maybe find a player with that value versus the dead cap money. So, $13.5 million cap number for 2025. He has 4.5, which is the dead cap hit, and then $9 million would be the cap savings. So, if you were to say, could you find a tight end for $9 million a year, based on the production that we've seen from Noah Fant, just even in his entire time in Seattle? And I would say, yeah, I think you could find that because I think that pass catching. I don't have the yards ahead of me, but or right in front of me, but I'm sure the yardage was very similar to what we ended up getting out. Of AJ Barner at the end of the season. Shoot, it might even be close to what Pharaoh Brown had. It's probably more than what Pharaoh Brown had,
I would imagine.
um,
Yeah. For sure.
but we saw his first touchdown right at the end of the game for the whole season. So you
Right.
for the amount that you're paying a tight end to a pass catching tight end, you'd expect more production. I think.
I think that's just simply money you could put in the bank and just use elsewhere. And go grab your blocking tight end, or you can even draft a blocking or UDFA, whatever, right? You get the Tip Rymans of the world out there, and you can get a blocking tight end to be better than Pharaoh Brown. So for your 12 personnel, and if you want to bring back Brady Russell for your 13, or you just bring in somebody else if you want to run 13, then so be it. But I think AJ Barner has shown plenty to me that he's the best blocking tight end on the team already. Year one, he's the best blocker. Cool. He is competent, very much competent enough with his hands. He gets open. He seeks out contact. He gets tough yards, and he was one of our bright spots in the red zone. What did he end up with? 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns. Most of them, as you might imagine, from tight ends, not like slot tight ends like Noah Fant or move tight ends. They're the dirty work. They are tiptoeing at the goal line and staying in bounds and getting a ball rifled at your face from Geno within a tight window and coming down with it. So I think of all the players this year, we hit some nice things. Tyrese Knight, that looks like a pretty nice hit. I mean, that 4th round is looking like a banger. And AJ Barner, and of course, Kobe Bryant had a really, really emergent year. It looks like he's going to be taking the safety role and starter next year. Very, very cool. But I got to put AJ Barner on the podium for biggest surprises to the upside. And I just like what he symbolizes. Like, to me, again, give me that Zach Miller type tight end. And I think we have Zach Miller 2.0, Brandon.
Yeah, I think that, and so Fant did double up on yards versus the production that we saw from Barner. He finished the year with 500 yards receiving,
good.
which that's
Not bad.
it's fine. But whether or not, it depends on what kind of team that you want to be next year too. Is the new offensive coordinator going to use tight ends as much? I guess I expected a little bit more out of Fant versus and I think that based on the salary, the team was expecting that too. And yeah, we just didn't see that much of it. But
Yeah.
we do see a super chat from Ryan911 with a $9.99 super chat in to you guys. Thanks for the hours of entertainment this season. Thanks to Ryan for the live executive producing.
Yeah, you've been doing it all year long. We put out a lot of shows, and everybody knows you are here for the vast majority of them doing this, which is really, really cool of you. So thank you, Ryan, for all that too. And it's our pleasure, right? I always think back, and Brandon, you and I will sometimes reminisce about like how this started, and how and what got us to now. And now we're insane and do a lot of shows, do lots of different shows, but it's what I want to do with my time. I think it's so much fun. So, but thank you, Ryan. Very cool. All right, we got one more out to get to for the year. Let's hop to it. Let's face it, and let's discuss. Okay, Q4 11:22 to go. It's a 4th and 1. We are on our own 39-yard line, and I'm calling this one eye to the future. And again, at this point, we're up 24-22. This is before they hit another really long field goal. Cardi had like about a 57-yarder, 58-yarder, et cetera, et cetera. What led to this moment, by the way, is us throwing the ball on 3rd and 1 again. So Gino boots out right. This is where he almost gets intercepted, where Lockett's trying to come back to the ball, and the DB cuts in front of Lockett and almost intercepts it on a 3rd and 1. And I'm sitting there going, run the friggin' ball, and I got to give Grubb, I know he's out the door, but there were other plays too where he hits Barner on a little crosser, with like a drag route on 3rd and 2 earlier in the game. Easy money, beautiful. There was some other passing opportunities we converted on 3rd and short. So it's not like I can't kill the guy every single time when it doesn't work and then applaud him when it does work. Just for my money and the way I like to play football, on 3rd and 1 at certain areas, run the football, because if you don't get it, you can just run it again. So anyway, we're going to take it to the videotape, and what we're looking at here is a punt. I know that might sound exciting, but in real 3 and 3 out style, look, you get Tariq Young flying down the top here, and I'd have to cut it up for reasons. But Tariq has plenty of time, breaks down and misses a tackle.
Yeah.
This to me is, our special teams was not good this year. I think we took a marked step back. We play a game where the Rams have the JV team in, but then they got the guy like Hiddington who comes out and runs the ball for 50 yards every time he touches it. It's like, well, they have dudes, and Darden's calling fair catches where there's room to run. But I also think Tariq has kind of taken a bit of a, like, between him and what's his face, number 36, who was redshirted last year, special teams guy, safety.
Yeah, that guy.
That's just escaping me. Little Hammer. If Locktimus is here, he'll know who he is. But I feel like Jarek Reed, thank you. And I just feel like in general, we're just not crisp. This is another play where the ball should be at the 8-yard line, tackled at the 8. And instead they're starting with the ball at the 23 or something like that. We cannot in 2025 so readily give away 15 yards of the field over and over and over again because of just mistakes. So I'm calling out Tariq here. I don't think he had a really great year. And, if you're not going to be excellent at this part of your game and you're not getting in as a wide receiver, then what are you doing? What are you doing? I want to see him do it, but what are you doing in 2025 for us?
Yeah, that's you want to see some of these big plays get made, and I think we even saw it a little bit. Job had a whiff too, where he was looking back to the football in a previous game. I think it was in this game too, where they had the opportunity. Like Dixon had an amazing punt that went down inside the 5. And was it Tyrese Knight that then like it goes off his shin? Like there's no.
Oh yeah, no, that should have been down to the 1-yard line. I
Right.
mean, like of the two, and I actually had that one queued up too. And I was like, all right, this one's a little later in the game and even potentially more significance. And that's why I chose this one.
This one was more significant, but if you're
But
just talking about special teams mistakes as a whole, I think you
yes,
have to go to that one too and say, what are these guys doing?
great recall. Like that's exactly. And the thing is, you know, obviously they practice this. Obviously they're special teamers. This is what they do. And the other part of it is all year long, man, there was a stretch, if you remember, kind of towards the beginning and kind of got to the middle where we just kept getting pinned at the 2-yard line over and over for a couple of weeks in a row. And we were never able to do that. Like Dixon was just putting it into the end zone. And then Dixon got better, by the way. His second half of the year and like his last third of the year, I
Mhm.
think he got a lot crisper than his first half or first 2/3. But then you have to finish the deal and tackle. It's again, I'm really kind of on this heater about things being emblematic of the entire season or the microcosm of the entire season.
Right.
This is it. It's like one part does good, the other part forgets how their feet work or that they have hands. Like and whether that's the full offense and the defense or special teams taking a week off, there was just this lack of congruency that it was a full team effort. And going back to the very beginning, when we say, what are you going to grade Mike McDonald? I can't give him an A if the entire team is having these patches of incongruency. Even if he's not in charge of that side of the ball, he's still the coach.
Right.
But 10-7, it's not going to be a great division next year. I think we're going to be in prime position with a few tweaks to, I think, potentially run the West next year, Brandon.
It's possible. I could see it going that way. I know that the Niners probably see themselves as a team that, if they fix a few things, and we saw them fire their special teams coordinator. It looks like they fired the defensive coordinator too,
Oh boy.
and so they're trying to make moves that they feel like they can be close within this division. The big question for them is going to be whether or not Brock Purdy comes back. Another year of Matt Stafford as he gets a little bit older. The Cardinals will continue to be the Cardinals, so I'm not too worried about them. But they're going to continue to compete for it, and I could see this team being very competitive. Even if you just run it back for the most part and make tweaks here and there, so that could be ultimately what they end up doing. And a big question is how the offense is going to look
Right.
under a new offensive coordinator next year, because as much as we think that it can't get any worse, there's still there's still decisions that could be made that could make it worse.
It could always get worse. And that's just the harsh reality of life, right? Not to be morbid or downtrodden, but that's probably why I'm such a positive person, because I know things could always get worse. They absolutely can. And but we also know what McDonald is going to be gunning for. That is very crystal clear and very, very evident. And I think there are some OCs out there that we went through just last night that philosophically will align and really, really match what they intend to do. So I think we're going to come into 2025 with a lot of hype, because you did win 10 games. I don't expect the Rams to do all that much in the playoffs. Hopefully it's one and done for them. And then it's like whatever, the NFC West was just kind of down this year, and that's fine. But we're in a really good spot to take advantage of it, man. So, all right, well, we went through the ins, we went through the outs, we got the wins. So not only did we start with the in, of course, with the win, but many years ago now we added a fantastic section. And Brandon, I've got a surprise for you. There you
Hey,
are. Look at that. I got it in the last week of the year.
my
And
updated
AI,
headshot.
your updated gorgeous headshot, the Clooney / Brad Pitt. I mean, you've never looked better. I mean that sincerely.
I am a little more. I didn't moisturize, I think, around my eyes for that picture. I
The
had my
crow's feet,
brown
right?
my brown contacts in, but for the most part, that looks exactly like me.
You've never looked better. You look wonderful. So for the last time in the 2024 season, let's get that last brand in. I know we don't talk about this. You don't share what it's going to be. I don't share what the 6 ins and outs are going to be. You come into it blind. I come into this blind for the 10th time this year. We get to do it. I know where you're going because I know where your heart is, but I'm ready for you to share it with all the flock.
Oh, you don't even have any idea where I'm going with my Brandon this week because my Brandon, the guy didn't even play in this week 17 game. It's Abe Lucas.
Ah,
I just know that based on how difficult it was for him to come back this season. Again, I'm looking at it similarly to how you did with finding something that's emblematic and the
yeah.
fact that he was able to come back from injury and put as much time on the field that he did, especially when you hear from him. Hawk Blogger had an exit interview that he played on his show
Yep.
earlier this week, and so yeah, the fact that he came back, he played through it. It sounds like despite missing this game, it was more of a precautionary thing, and now he's going into this offseason healthy, and I'm just excited about having 2 healthy tackles to start the next year, and Abe Lucas being one of those, and so the fact that he was able to come back, play through the season, sure, he missed week, 17 or week 18, the 17th game, knowing himself and sitting out this game that he didn't really necessarily need to play. Abe Lucas getting my brand in.
And by the way, flock, that is how you change a Brandon into a better at life. I like it, Brandon, or vice versa, right? So I like it. You did shock me there. I did think, and I think we'll get it from the flock in our next section. So I'll leave it be. I thought you might go to number 16 and give Tyler Lockett a little bit of love,
Oh yeah.
but it's a okay that you did not. I'm sure we'll get that. We do have the MVC, of course, the most valuable
I'm not
cranny.
ready to say goodbye to Tyler Clinton.
Gotcha.
I
Okay,
have one more year of Tyler in me. So yeah,
fair enough.
don't be
Fair.
thinking I'm gonna go there because this is his last game or something. No, he's gonna be back here week 1 playing for the 2025 Seahawks. Come on now.
Well, and something that will be back next year as well is, of course, the 3D printer for the MVC, the most valuable cranny trophy that we print. It's very real. Now, the thing I don't really know is what do we do with this one that we're about to present? Like, how do we get to this individual? We'll
Hmm.
figure it out. I also want to say, I think since the MVC has been created, I believe this is the most usage the MVC has gotten in any season because I think this is season 3 for the most valuable cranny trophy. And if that's correct, the 10th win really, really matters. So somebody could go back and look at that, but I think this is season 3 for the NBC. So with that, Brandon, I am giving this thing to Tyrese Knight. And again, it is the future, the wish cast and the future forward look at this. And I'm saying capping off an impressive rookie season and causing havoc on 3rd and long. I like what I saw from Tyrese Knight, and he caught quite a bit of strays through the draft process, and then he was really nothing but good. And then when we paired him with EJ4, he got better, and he did a nice job as a rookie out there. And I'm excited that our last show of the year, we're talking about A.J. Barner, we're talking about Tyrese Knight, we're talking about this class heading into 2025. Lucas being healthy, Cross being young and healthy. Man, the future is looking bright, Brandon.
As much grief as John Schneider gets for the offensive line, especially over a long period of time, you can't discount the fact that he has found success through the draft and so many other areas. And so,
Correct.
as frustrating as it is on the offensive line, it gives you as much optimism when you look at other areas of the field. And again, to go back to that idea of things could get a whole lot worse. I mean, there's general managers out there that have not had near the success through the draft that John Schneider has, and also have difficulty in forming a confident offensive line. So it to have a general manager that has success in some areas and then can lean on his coach now in picking up mid-round linebackers that ultimately end up becoming starters and getting awarded MVC trophies. And I'll have to talk to the engraver and maybe put down in the bottom if you ignore the one not fumble, but issue that he had on the punt and downing the football.
Right.
We're getting into a 6th line in that case, which maybe due to the budget and the fact that it's the last MVC trophy of the year. Okay, maybe we leave that off.
We can lop it off. We have struck an accord, and I love where you finished this too, because obviously this episode was more about, yes, the game, but really looking at what it means going forward. And I like giving credit to Schneider because he gets killed, like you're saying. And if you go look at the 2022 roster, especially defensive roster of 2022, and then look at it just 2 years later, he completely gutted and reformed the defense, and now has a chance to go make improvements around the offensive side, which is already pretty good. So some trust as we get into it. Yes, he's got to go do something that he hasn't done quite well yet, right? Build that offensive line. But I think it's gonna, I really do believe it's gonna happen this offseason because the other things are so aligned. And first things have got to be first things. Do you want to get blown out the building? I remember after the Ravens game, and then when Carroll got fired, they asked Schneider about like, well, when was it? And he was basically like, look, the Ravens game, we get run out the building. And he's like, we said to each other, never again, So first things got to be first things. You got to go fix that. So, because without a defense, you're not competing, period. And yet we competed, yet we were 10-7 and we'll be right back at it. So carrying that optimism forward. So Brandon, MVC to Tyrese Knight. And then of course we still have our From the Flock section. We're going to hop into our Discord and we're going to end this the right way by reading your ins, your outs for this game and your discussions about who you want to highlight. Brandon, let's remind people what should they be doing if they want to become a member of our flock?
Yes, you can go to getintheflock.com. $3 and above gets you into our Discord where you have the channels like 3 and 3 Out that we discuss topics for this show. We have our game day channel where we are chatting throughout other games that happen to be on TV. We have our game day, Seahawks channel. So there, if you think of it kind of as a chat room with a lot of little mini chat rooms, if you haven't been on Discord, that's a good way to describe it. So where there's a lot of little topic-based discussions that you can have. We even have a mock draft channel for this offseason. So if you are a mock draft type person, we have several members of our flock who love to post their mock drafts and get feedback from one another, and a channel just for that. So if you're a draftnik this offseason and you want to get into that little bit of the community, even within our Discord, it's a great place to find it there. And before we go on, Clinton, to our ins and our outs, do we want to hear from Hong Kong Hawk or Dave Bloomquist, not Hawk Van Dyke? Now I'm going back. I'll call him Boston Hawk next and go way back to when we started the show.
I love it. Yes, I think so. So Bloomy, Dave Bloomquist sent in a voicemail to the show and he's keeping up with tradition. So yeah, man, let's roll the tape for him.
Hello, Clinton. Hello, Brandon. This is Hawk Van Dyke, and I just want to give a big in to everyone who participated in the 2024 Ring of Honor Fantasy Football League, especially Hector Mark and Marty Gately, who won promotion into the Premier League. Sad goodbyes to Aaron Fisher and Mario Cristiani, who were demoted to League Two. And the biggest ins go to third place, Garrett Stratton Banks, second place, Commissioner Ross Bell, and the champion, that's me. Thank you and kudos to both of you for a great season of 3i3o. Looking forward to a whole lot of ins for 2025. Cheers.
I got to say, I think Bloomy's accent is getting a little bit better. Maybe living in London there has helped improve that for him.
Yeah, he's becoming a caricature of himself, right? So he actually has a great YouTube channel that we should give a shout out to as well. That's called Starstruck by London, and Bloomy does an awesome job with it. So put it this way: if you're ever looking to travel to London and be like, well, what should I do when I'm there? That is the perfect channel to go to because he does all these vignettes of these very hyper specific things. I'll be like, oh, go check out the 10 best areas for Brit rock history, things like that. The 10 best pub crawls you can go do in London. And he does a really nice job with it. So shout out to Bloomy. Great voicemail there as well. Congrats, Dave. You won the Premier League. Blind squirrel finds a nut. I'll be back. And but good job. We really do appreciate it. And also Bloomy, for those that are in Discord, he put out a cool message in the travel channel. Brandon, you're saying we got all these little micro channels. We even have a channel just dedicated to travel. So when 12s are going to different places around the globe, or we're going to meet up for some Seahawks games, we're planning that there together too. So just one more reason to get in the flock. All right. We heard from Bloomy. Why don't you take it away with the first in or out that you see from our Discord? The mic's yours.
Yes, starting with an out from Amy. Designed Pete's Beach House. Out, no 6 ins. You tried, though. You tried to kind of work in 6 ins that with some ins that were outs, but were also kind of ins for this game, but out for the season. So you did your best, Clinton, and that should be applauded.
I really want 2025 to have a good old traditional 6-in week. While we only have one rule, there is a sub rule, if you will, that if we get a shutout, so a shutout by our Seahawks equals 6 ins for the week. I hope we get there because that's a lot of fun. There's so many weeks I want to do that, but hey, it is what it is. We got Car. She's here with us live, and she also was in the Discord. She goes, in Myers, still money in the odd year. She's playing a little loose and
we
fast.
have flipped the calendar over.
The Mayan calendar has flipped, and she's not wrong. In fact, she's right. Myers still money.
Yeah, the Mayan calendar, the more traditional calendar. What do we call our actual calendar? Anyway,
is that the Gregorian? Is that Gregorian? Is that we follow, or is that?
I was going to go with that, but that I wasn't sure if that sounded right or if it was just right in my mind. But Josh DeHuman coming in with 2 ins. A.J. Barner, 4th rookie touchdown, and an in. Multiple throwing touchdowns by Geno. Yes, great day. It almost looks well. Geno actually finished, I think, tied for the most touchdown passes in the NFC West.
Would you look at that? Would you look at that? And Murray also threw 4 touchdowns last Sunday. So would you look at that? 21 touchdowns in a year where touchdowns are a little harder to come by, 70% completion percentage, dude's under incredible duress, literally first in the NFL with bad ball percentage, meaning that's where you want to be. He throws the least bad balls in the league. I am very done with people that don't think Geno's good. I'll just be polite and say it that way.
It's a question of whether or not I really don't. Well, there are some people that don't think he's good, and but I feel like that's a very small minority that just are not
small but loud, Brandon. Small but loud. Oh my word, they're loud.
He's good, but then there's like a portion of okay, but is he going to be worth the salary next year? Is he good enough to be? People have started bringing up that idea of the guy who you can hold up the Lombardi, which based on the number of quarterbacks that are good but not great that have done it, like I don't know.
Of course he can. Of course he can. Of course he can. By the way, awesome. If he does get to Super Bowl, it will most likely be played indoors, and Geno indoors is absolutely money. So he absolutely has a shot at it. All right. We got Josh DeHuman with another one too. We have to give Josh the double up here because his in is for Leo. Leo with double-digit sacks, showing why he should have been voted Pro Bowl, showing why he should be an All-Pro. He got not 1, but 2 sacks on the day to finish with 11 on the year, only a half sack shy of his career high. Man, did Leo have it. We don't talk about him that much on this show because he's the highlight monster, right? So, But Leo, boy, oh boy, great trade, worth the pick, worth the money, and he had a freaking awesome year, man.
Love this little micro in from Car. Lockett always being the one to check on injured teammates. He's always one of the first guys over there and saying that people love to focus on stats, but his value goes beyond that. He really is a culture guy, a team guy. And yeah, if they can find a way to keep him on the roster one more year, especially if he wants to play, that would be great. Also an in, Geno going back in to take the knee and win it.
Yes, I was looking for the backflip, but then I was like, oh, maybe he shouldn't do the that backflip himself.
No, usually Tariq Young's been the backflip guy.
No, I know. I was in just before it was
Geno. Yeah, like let's see it, old man.
Right, exactly, Mark. You want the money? Do a backflip. It's not too hard, right? Of course, Marquise Goodwin started that a couple of years ago in 2022, and Derek has taken that over, which I do like that because victory formation is lovely. Okay, we got Frost in the Discord, who is of course Ryan out here with us as well. He goes in overall, kind of a rough game for the defense, but with the game on the line in the fourth, they do the job and they keep the Rams out of the end zone. McDonald gets to a point where he goes, I'm just going to send people. And if you beat me, you beat me. And I'm okay with that. I like it, in fact.
We've got Carr with the in. If this is Lockett's last game as a Seahawk, I hope it isn't. I'm going to miss him a ton. He's such a class act, and I'm frustrated. He had Grubb as the OC his last season. Well, the good news, he won't have Grubb as his OC for his last season. We figured that out this week.
We sure did.
Be back next year.
Yes, and we got perhaps we got JS and Jiggy with it, which is of course Lisa. She goes in having the Discord to share the good times and the pain and the suffering. We got lots of ins from the flockers that like that because there's nothing like it, man. There's nothing like it. I live in Connecticut. I grew up on Long Island. I'm doing this with Seahawks fans. What a world.
An in from B-Wags Biceps saying kind of fun to win a shootout. Out saying Lamb's two-string, second-string screening all over us. Yeah, and there was the amount of shootout, not a ton of downfield passes, but they did put up a lot of yards through the air. And to see us put up some touchdowns through the air, that was kind of fun too. We had not seen, well, shoot, that was the first 4 touchdown performance by Geno Smith in his career too.
Yeah, which is amazing, right? So beautiful day from him. We got a couple more. I'll go with Garrett, who is Adam Pete on me. Then we got Dane, and we can finish up, of course. Well, you know how we're going to finish, even though he's a sandwich here. He gets the voicemail and he gets to close it out because he is who he is. But we got Garrett. He says, we had the same record as 5 other teams that made the playoffs. He goes out. We did not make the playoffs. So, hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And Amon-Ra St. Brown before their last game saying the NFL's got to change seeding even before they won the game and got the 1 seed. It's not fair. This, that, and the 14 team shouldn't have to go on the road. No, I love it. The divisions should mean what they mean. And sometimes you win 10 and you're on the outside looking in. Get us hungrier for next year and we'll be back.
We've got a live in from AZ Hawker to Artie Burns stepping up for a rough and hurt cornerback group and ended up playing 37 of the 66 snaps. And not only did he come in and finish the game with 37 total snaps, he was the highest graded defender per Pro Football Focus with a 90.2, Clinton.
This is why I love doing this show live, because AZ Hawker, this is an amazing pull. I have it in my notes. It's over here, but I failed to get to it. My notes read, we should keep Artie Burns. And I'll continue. If that means it's not, Nehemiah Pritchett or others, so be it. I put Burns is useful. You need a nickel, you need a slot nickel. You need a guy to come in a pinch. The guy is just a solid defensive back. He's a good enough open field tackler. He's sticky enough. He hits well enough. He's just good. And he gets moved around from practice squad to back to this. He's backing a guy up. All of a sudden he's getting major snaps. To me, Brandon Artie Burns has proved his value. And I would love a dude like that to be on our roster in 25. That's a great pull by AZ.
Carly Perkins with another live in. I believe if we had lost the game, we've gotten the exact same draft pick. So into us for getting the win without losing anything. I know that's something you can get behind, Clinton.
Well, I kind of changed my tune midway through the week. It just was hitting me. And then I was all in on winning that game. And the 16th versus the 18th, it just didn't matter to me anymore where that fell. I did want to get the win. So I came to the right conclusion, but I had to be, rightfully berated for a little bit there. So I don't mind that. All right. We got Dane X back in the Discord. This is really good stuff too. He goes our tight ends were 11 of 12. So, 11 receptions on 12 attempts, for 101 yards and 3 touchdowns. He goes, yes. He goes, yes, I count Bobo as a tight end. So he put Bobo in there, and why not already? So, you end the season with a touchdown from Fant, a touchdown from Barner, a touchdown from Bobo. Those are good things, man. So, I mean, I know he's, skirting the rules a little bit there, but I like the math he threw at us.
And closing things out with Hawk Van Dyke. We heard from him earlier. We'll close it out with him. And the out 80s PTSD, the only non-playoff 10-win team. Yes, the Seahawks are the only non-playoff team, and much different than the 80s. A lot more teams getting into the playoffs. But shoot, had we still been in the AFC West, maybe we would have made the actual playoffs.
Yeah, it's very possible. Pretty good division, though.
And in to close it out, showed improvement all year. Weeks 4 through 9 seemed more real than weeks 1 through 3. Then we won 6 of the last 8 when Mac's scheme took hold. 2025 should be much better.
Yeah, love that. It's a great place to land it. And again, even though this was about the game, it really was also looking at the future. And I think we did a fun job there, Brandon. So I know we've got lots of different content coming up. I forget if I put this back on screen. Now that is the last one. But what I'll put up, I think it's all the way back. I think it's all the way back here. Let's put it back up on screen so we remind folks. There it is. There it is. I'll put it back up one last time, Brandon, that we do have the Hate Watch party coming up this Monday night. Just share this, get this out to all the other flockers out there, to other Seahawks fans. Frankly, anybody who wants to see the Rams lose, they're welcome. So I don't care if it's Vikings fans. Brandon, do you care if Vikings fans want to watch
Vikings
with
fans,
us?
shoot, Packers fans might join in. They might want to see. Well, they would want to see the Vikings lose, probably more so. So I mean, Arizona Cardinals fans, they can come
Sure.
and root on the Rams to lose. There's not a whole lot of them anyway, but
all two of them. Yeah.
we'll take those extra ones. And but Niners fans, we don't want you there.
Yeah, Niners fans
Watch
can stay
on your
home.
own.
Yeah, I don't really want to ever deal with them if I don't have to. Very well said. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then we are starting all the content, right? So we're into it. We already did a great deep dive into the OCs. You and Adam are heading down to the Shrine Bowl. That's the one that's in Dallas. Is that right?
Dallas, right.
Dallas. Okay. Very, very cool. I love that you guys are doing that. Can't wait to see it, see a lot of the content that we get to create from there as well. So we're in it to win it. Let's go Vikings, of course. Great, fun year. I get through these years and I have a lot of gratitude. These are fun. This show is fun. I like breaking down the show and hanging out with our Discord members who like at the 11th hour to remind me to talk about Artie freaking Burns. That's what this is about, Brandon. I love it so freaking much, man.
I love it too. It was a fun season. I wanted so much more, but we still had fun doing it. Go back to even early on in the season, week 2, we travel out to New England. We hang out with the Princetonian, Wilson,
Yes.
and the 4 of us get to see one of the first road victories of Mike McDonald's very strong road winning season.
Yeah.
And ultimately that was fun too.
Yeah, we had a blast, and then of course you had some flockers out there for a game in Seattle, so you took the road trip there. I got to go see Seahawks Jets this year as well, and see that victory. So all in all, a really, really good year. Join the Discord, get into the travel channel. The opponents are already out for 2025. We know there's going to be a road game as long as it's not London. A road game in Tennessee looks like that's for sure going to happen. There's road games in like Washington, D.C. That's a very cool city. There's a road game in Jacksonville, and being in Florida can be a lot of fun. So very much looking forward to hopefully in 2025, we could do like a really big away gathering this year, Brandon. That'd be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it.
All right. But I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.